Anna, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast and letting us shoot this in the Sharesies office too. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast, and it's a pleasure to be here too.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. It's great to be a part of it.
Thank you so much. I guess the first topic I'd like to really touch on is your HR journey. Where did it start? How did you come to where you are today?
Yeah. Oh, look, I won't go too much into detail. However, as many of us do when we're studying in a university or whatnot, we have part-time jobs, and I was working in a part-time job, and I just felt like some of the things they were telling us or pay they were giving us or not giving us didn't seem right. So I started doing a little bit of digging into my rights as an employee, and that was what sparked my interest. I was in my first year at university at that point, and I was doing a commerce degree, and that was when I went, oh, okay, I'm going to change my focus, and I'm going to look at doing HR.
Right.
Because I know that knowledge is power, and I really wanted to empower myself to know what my rights were as an employee. So that was where I started off, and that kind of sparked my, my kind of interest in that people space. And I think to start with, I was really interested in like the employment legislative side.
Right.
So there's been a few times that I've also gone, do I want to look at working in or studying towards employment law as well? But as my journey's gone along, I've been working less in that space and more in that kind of more holistic people experience HR space. So less on that. And now I've got super smart people in my team that are really good at that side of things. So
Awesome.
I've moved back from that. But I've had a bit of an eclectic career in the people space, I suppose. I was lucky enough to get asked to go back and do honours. At first, I wasn't going to do that at university, but then I found it was really hard out there in the market to get a job straight out. You know, it's kind of a hygiene factor at that point was to have a undergrad degree. So I went back and the postgrad, and then ended up being able to get a job, entry-level HR job in a government department, which I worked at for about 3 years before I did my big OE, as many people do. So I was able to work in a few companies, private companies in England. And so that was quite good for experience there. So I was able to work and have some really good grounding in HR from a public sector experience in New Zealand. And then I was able to go and work in likes of London and little old Suffolk and private companies as well. So when I came back to New Zealand, I worked a bit in government again, sports sector, and now I'm in the tech sector. Yeah.
It's like a lot of variety.
A lot of variety. Yeah. And I think at first I was a bit, I've never worked in the tech sector before. I can't work in HR in that. And if anything, I look back and went, hey, what? I'd never worked in government before. I'd never worked at, Associated Chartered Certified Accountants in London. I'd never worked at all of these different companies and all these different industries, and I'd made it work. So, yeah, it was really great to go from working in a sports sector that I was really passionate about to going, right, this is a completely new industry and I'm going to give it a go. And I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. It just goes to show, like, it's a good thought process. Like, suppose you are embarking on something new.
Yeah.
Totally foreign.
Yes.
But then, once upon a time, other things were foreign too.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So in New Zealand, at least what we've seen, and I could be completely wrong here, 2020, 2021, massive tech shortage.
Yeah.
It was tough to attract engineers at that point. 2022 started to ease up a bit.
Yeah.
2023, at least our view was that it was relatively easier than before. But I guess when you're trying, let's just say that, right now times are good if you want to hire staff, but suppose we come into a situation where it's tight again and hard again. What would you do differently if you were trying to attract talent?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I guess it depends on the age and stage of your organisation, the industry that you're in and so forth. EVP is a really big one, employee value proposition. So that's probably one thing that I'd do. If we were looking to do a whole lot of rapid growth, again, like we did in 2020 and 2021, when we did a huge amount. I was number 48 employee here, so quite small at that point, and then we've just grown and entered different markets and products and so forth. But absolutely, is to spend that time looking at your employee value proposition. If you're really early on in the stage of your journey, it's going, what kind of organisation do I want to be? Do we want to be? What kind of people do we want to hire? What's our product? And then how do we want to build that product? What are the kind of, who are going to be that target market for that product? And so what does our team need to look like to be able to make that product right for that? And I think So EVP is one of that, your mission, your values, all of that, to then pull back and go, right, we've got a little bit of work to do, and we need to kind of sell our organisation as a place that we want people to come to. For a lot of people, it's really hard. So you can pull together this beautiful, shiny EVP and go, this is what we do, these are our benefits, this is our compensation, and so forth. But actually, that will work for your general population. It's not going to work necessarily for everyone. So there's a little bit of that and a lot of just talking to people, I think, is a big one. Yeah.
So when you say like a lot of talking to people,
yeah,
you're saying talking to people, getting feedback, and then adjusting the EVP, or what exactly are we looking to adjust in the EVP? What do we get from talking to people?
Yeah, look, there's a few different things. You know, for example, our recruitment process, we will ask our people for feedback. We get feedback. We get unsolicited feedback, which is fantastic, from people that don't come through. But we also, at the end of our onboarding process, reach out to our new people as well and go to them, you know, what worked really well, what didn't, what would you suggest, and so forth, because that's really important for us to keep iterating on that side of things as well. But yeah, it's also just kind of going out there and talking to recruiters. It's just talking to people out there in the market that we know of, people that we're interested in tapping, and so forth as well. But also our own team. It's really important. It's so important. You know, I could sit here and go, I'm going to develop an EVP that's going to work really well for me, and then make that work for everyone else, and we know that that's not going to work. So like my team, for example, some of my team have gone through this program called Employee Experience Design School, so they're all certified by certified designers, and the whole premise around that is designing with your people. Right. As opposed to for your people. Nice. So design with your people, for your people, and that means that ideally it will work for the wider team. There's always going to be like individuals that you need to kind of work on separately or work with separately. You're never ever going to make everybody happy. Yep. I think that's one thing. You've got to go into working in HR or the people space knowing that and going, it's really hard sometimes to go, there are unhappy people. But the aim is to try and make sure that you're making that experience great for as many people as you can.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Awesome. I guess the follow-up over here is retention. Yeah. And that's something which is, I mean, attrition, despite the market, has kind of gone up last year in New Zealand. That's at least the data we're seeing. Yeah. How have you, I guess at Sharesies or even just in the past, really tackled that?
Your retention's such a huge topic, and there's so many different things that kind of factor into that retention piece. You know, people say people don't leave good jobs, they leave bad managers. That's always one thing, but also I know when I have good friends that leave a job, that makes quite a difference too, no matter how good the job is or how good my manager is. If my friends have gone, that can kind of make things not so great as well. But at the end of the day, it's all the programs that you put into place underneath, like building the foundations, is really going to help that retention piece. So, you know, if you're listening to your people, if you're working with them, designing with them, you know, for us, engagement's really important. We know that if we gain insights from our team around what's working, what's not working, and so forth, and put action into it, then that's really going to help. But it's also looking at our people as individuals too and going, yes, we could do all of this stuff, but there's still going to be things that are going to pull people away. Majority of our people have left because they want to go overseas. Right. I've done my OE, and I would never begrudge anybody else for going to do theirs. And to be honest, I'd encourage everyone to, if that was something that they wanted to do. And we had put a couple of things into place, probably about the beginning of 22, when borders and that started opening and lifting again, and more people got itchy feet. So one of the things we introduced was sabbaticals, saying yes, you know, you can go off on this period of leave and do what you need to do, and then harimai, come back. We really want to have you back in our team, and that's worked really well. We had quite a few people take that opportunity up. And then we've also been able to have working holidays for people, so they've been able to go across and actually continue to work while they're in Mexico or while they're in England or Italy and so forth. So we've got a tight system around it, working with our legal team to make sure everything's kind of right. But, you know, things like that has really made people go, that was what I needed. I'm really happy to have been able to do that. I was able to do a bit of work, bit of travel, spend some time with my family, because we've got a lot of migrants that work here that wanted to go home and see their family for a few months, and being able to give them that opportunity has been fantastic as well. And then other people have come back and gone, oh, that was just the tip of the iceberg, I want to go for more. And then we're like, that's cool, like I get that. So not everybody is there because of travelling, but absolutely the majority of our people have gone because they're either going home or they want to do their OE.
Absolutely. What I find, like, because Airbnb and I think some other large corporations also have like a working holiday as well. If I were talking to, let's just say, SMB, probably us. We unofficially have a working holiday thing. In the sense that, like, all right, if you're able to just meet whatever you're able to meet, we'll let you go, and it's unofficial. It's just like we'll just work it out with each other. But we've also had some people abuse it too. So, in your experience, what do you think companies, or probably even us, could do to prevent the abusing, or is our mindset wrong?
I mean, I think that you've got to go into it with trust, and you build that up beforehand. So you kind of talk about those expectations before somebody's even, you have agreed that system's going to go into place. And I think that's key. If you're performance managing somebody and they've come to you and said, hey, I want to have a working holiday, then I think that you'll probably say, no, I'm sorry that we can't facilitate this at that time because of this one and that. But if somebody's doing a great job, they're productive, their outputs are great, and they're doing what you're asking them to do, then sitting down with them and making that work and actually having a bit of a plan, soft plan beforehand, can be super helpful. I think just as helpful for you as that people leader as it would be for them as that person that's going off, so that they know what's expected of them. There's going to be times when there's team meetings, monthly team meetings, or like your own small team things or organisational wide things that might be your non-negotiables. So you might say, I'm really sorry, but this is going to be a 3 a.m. wake up for this. We'll try and make things work better with timings and things, but these are the non-negotiables, and the rest of that is, I'm more interested in what you deliver as opposed to the hours or the days that you work while you're gone.
Right.
So for some people, they've stepped out of their BAU or their core role and gone kind of like into a secondment, into a individual contributor type role, and then they've been given a project, certain project that's manageable within what they're going to be doing, and then they can go off, do that holiday and deliver what they need to.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And like I see that. Like, in fact, the person that actually took advantage of it was someone who already had performance issues. And he conveyed to us that this is just a way of him getting back on track. And so we took that with a huge grain of salt. Because we obviously wanted it to work. And we kind of learned that it wasn't that case. It put a lot of stress on the rest of the team. We didn't come out of it going, we're anti it.
No.
We came out of it going, okay, we just, like you said, set a structure beforehand and be very adamant about it. And if it's 3 a.m. for you, we kind of can't tell everybody else to change their timings for one person. We have to be fair to everyone, right? And I guess like the difficult part for us, and I feel SMBs probably feel the same, is that how do you say this to them without coming across as someone who's not like the bad person in the company? Like, how you've got to, like, it's a difficult conversation from my perspective. You're rejecting something that someone wants. It does seem viable, but then you're kind of rejecting it. So how would you have not just that conversation, but even performance conversations? Like how would you do that?
Look, and again, that's probably something that you could talk for hours on, about how to manage difficult conversations. We offer trainings and workshops for our people leaders here on that particular subject, because to be honest, I don't know anybody that actually enjoys having a difficult conversation. I think the key is preparation, though. You really need to prepare for that, and go with an open mind as well, because we don't know what's going on in people's home lives. We don't know what's impacting them, and so we might go, oh my gosh, AJ's just not doing great. What's up? I'm going to have a conversation with him and go, you're doing this, that, and the other, and it's not great. But then you might be going, oh my gosh, I've got this happening at home. I'm paying for 5 family members to do this. I'm also there having to manage that. I have to take grandma at 5 o'clock every morning to the, you know, we have no idea what's happening in your life. So sometimes it is just actually going, hey, what's up? I've noticed this. Let's have a chat. Because then you might find that it's actually less performance and more, there's a bit of well-being support that you need to give them that will then pick up that performance too. So I think that's one of the key things. And it's the same with someone that's either you're performance managing them or you're going down that route and they come and say, hey, I'd love to go do a sabbatical or have a working holiday, is to have a bit of an open chat again with them and go, hey, look, we're at this point here, we're finding this. I would love to hear from you how you propose this will work for you and for us first. So kind of put the ball back in their court as well. So what you want to do is you don't want to just go in with a closed off mind. This is generalizing here because there's always going to be nuances depending. And saying a hard and fast no until you actually just have a good kōrero with them and kind of understand what that situation is.
Makes sense. Yeah. And I like how you say that, right, put the ball in their court, because they kind of feel like that, okay, they're collaborating on a solution for this too.
Is that whole designing with them, for them type of thing?
Yeah. But it actually makes me think of another question. Particular, this is something that we sort of deal with at times, is you've got your performance issues one side. Some people are relatively quicker at getting things done than other people. Sometimes they're not. It's hard to trust, obviously, firsthand. But if someone were to come to you and just say, hey, what do you think about, you know, if I'm able to finish something quicker, I can go off and do whatever it is. Yeah. And maybe you agree to it. And then that person then goes and starts their work, only works for maybe 4-ish, 5-ish hours. Yeah. Gets as much done as somebody else in terms of they're not actually that quick, they're just per expectations. Yeah. But they've said this and you've kind of let it slip for maybe a week or two, or probably just to say a month. Yeah. That difficult conversation, or not even that difficult conversation, how would you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's quite a deep, not like a deep question, but there's so much that you could delve into that point. But I think, you know, it depends on, again, the industry, the type of work that you do. If I think about my team, for example, I have a real swings and roundabouts approach. That's what I call it. You know, like sometimes that we might have to work our butts off and work 9-10 hours to deliver something. And then sometimes, you know, we've got work in the work plan and we're tracking really well to it. And like, it's a beautiful day. It's 3 o'clock. I'm going, go home, mate. Like, go enjoy the time with your family. My thing is if you're delivering what we need you to deliver, I think a big thing is about the culture of the company as well. If you've got people that are really engaged and inspired and motivated to do a great job as well, I think you'll find that there'll be less of those instances that are happening. It's not going to happen, but I think if people kind of really are aligned with the values and the mission of what you're trying to do, then they're going to want to kind of deliver. So yeah, my team in particular, I have very clear expectations on that. You know, we're a service or a support team. So, you know, we work flexibly, we work hybrid way, but because most of our team are in Wellington, most of our team work out of this office, and most of our team, when they need help, they'll they'll Slack us, use online comms to reach out or email or something. More often than not, if they're in the office, they're going to come and try and find us. And when it's people-related stuff, sometimes there's emotion, sometimes there's, you know, deep things that we have to kind of work through. Being there and available is really helpful. Right. So, you know, if one of my team's like, oh, I'm going to knock off at 4, I'm like, get out of here type of thing, because I know that they're doing what they need to do. But if they're not, then I'm going to sit down and have a really good conversation with them about that. And again, kind of delve through what we talked about before about going with an open mind and having an open, two-way conversation with them.
Made me think about something over there. And I'm going to bring it back to importance of creating a wellness program, right? Yeah. So you mentioned in that example about how things could be going on at home. Yeah. And again, like, everyone has their own judgment. How would you approach to balance it? As in, like, in the sense that, like, someone may come and how the new people say cap. Yeah. Right? They may say something that's actually not entirely true. Yeah. It's a really tough thing to work through. I haven't seen it myself. Yeah. But I've heard of horror scenarios like this. Yeah. In particular, so not related to tech, but like if we talk about the hospitality industry, it happens a lot, right? So in a situation like that, or maybe even tech, it may happen as well.
Yeah.
It's hard to say, oh, I can tell when someone's telling the truth or
Yes.
someone's not. It's just like, oh, what do you do? But
like I'm calling in sick all the time,
Yep.
or or you do hear of people playing different cards, mental health or so forth, or my grandma's died for the third time type of thing.
Yep. How many grandmas you got?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So, I think that's one of those things when you just need to kind of sit down and have a conversation with them. We are the organisation that for leave, if someone starts work the 1st of January and they're sick on the 3rd of January, we tell them to take sick leave, go home, we'll pay you that sick leave as well. So we actually go over and above minimum entitlement where and when we can. So like most organisations, people don't get sick leave until they've been there for 6 months.
Yep.
So there is absolutely the opportunity for people to be able to kind of swing it and make the most of it. And I think it goes back to that trust. If we tell you right from the beginning that we trust you to do good and to do right for Sharesies, then Sharesies will also do the same. Or other organisations that I worked at, it's not just been Sharesies, it's one of those things. So it's that two-way street. But of course we will and people will and do pick up patterns of behaviour, or every Monday AJ's taking off, sick, calling in. So, again, it's one of those ones that's having a chat. There's this beef jerky ad on at the moment, and it goes, you don't want HR telling you off, and I always internally go, it's not HR that's doing that conversation, it's the people leader that's having that conversation, it's the manager that's having that. But you've got your HR, your people experience team there to guide and support you, coach you through those conversations. If you're in a big enough company. If you're not, peer conversations, having a chat to someone else, having a chat to another leader that you trust and value is also really helpful to help you go into one of these difficult conversations as well. Because I think it is really important. Yes, people do different industries. I worked in hospitality for years before I went to university as well. I know what it's like. I think if we take it back to if people are aligned to the mission and the values and what you're trying to do, and they believe in what you're trying to do, then we'll find more often than not that people will turn up and bring their best selves. Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's kind of nice how it all aligns back to, again, them being aligned with what's been going on in the company. It's like if you have something that they're wanting to be a part of, it's not just the salary, it's not just the work environment, it's actually what you're doing.
Yes.
That incites them, entices them. But I thought of this while you were talking about, again, mental health. And again, if someone's having performance issues, you have an open mind and you talk to them about it, and they, maybe it's just like, okay, maybe there was a death in the family. And that obviously takes a huge toll on someone.
Absolutely.
Even if it's not, I guess, the word isn't first person, but even if it's not immediate family, it can still take a toll on someone.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I was actually talking to, so we've got an HR manager, and I was with him last week in Montreal, and the first question I have had for him, because it was just going through my mind for 3-4 months, how can we be proactive about being close to our people? We don't want it to come as a surprise, and it's not even a business decision. It's like we care about our people. And we want to help them whatever way we can. And it's better that, we know firsthand. I mean, his thing was and we've just hired that person now, is we call them a mental health advocate in the company.
Cool.
And it's just an open person who's not related to anyone else or even HR. It's just a safe space. So it's kind of like a counselor. To just have those conversations on a monthly basis or whatever they choose. And again, we don't know what the success will be of this. It's just something that I was very concerned about, because we just saw that a lot of issues were happening with people, and it would come to our attention again after doing a performance review. So we are lucky enough to have the resources to do that. But for those companies that aren't, what sort of approach would you recommend? Do you think, are we doing the right thing? as well. Do you think maybe we could adjust? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think that's fantastic. We have at Sharesies mental health first responders. So they're a bunch of people from around the business. There's no specific team level, role or anything. It's people that genuinely care about the health and well-being of their colleagues, and so we put them through formal training, not by us, like there's external, and people know who they could go to. We used to have a formal wellness window once a week, and then we found actually people, when they want to talk about something, they want to talk about something that they don't necessarily want to wait till Wednesday at 3 o'clock to be able to have that conversation. So we pulled that window out, but people know that we've still got mental health first responders here if they ever want to talk about anything. People know, and they do come to our PX team as well. And also we're partners with this business called Clearhead, and they're like an employee assistant program kind of on steroids. So yes, you can use them to get your traditional kind of therapy and counselling, but they're an online platform as well. So you can go on and then you can search through all of their therapists and you can find the one that works best for you.
Right.
They've got tools online. So if I want to work through mood journal, or if I've got an issue, I can chat to a bot and then it will give me some tools to work through. They run challenges and so forth, but they also offer webinars, which they often do as well. So they've kind of got a real package. It's more aligned around mental health, like mental health. However, they also offer financial advisor services through that platform as well. So our people can also decide to go talk to a financial advisor as well if they want to, because we know that financial well-being is just as important. Well, it really impacts on everything else as well, right? We know the cost of living and everything that's happening at the moment as well. Financial stresses are huge on people, and people spend up to 20 hours a week thinking about finance and money and how am I going to pay for this? How do I make this work? And so forth. So it's fantastic that their platform has that offering, and something that Sharesies is always looking at as a fintech as well, is what can we do to financially empower our people and to help grow and educate them around financial wellbeing as well. So something that's always really topical for us.
It's interesting because while I was on the flight here, I was just talking to someone, and for some reason, after just a bit of a chat, the question was, how much do you earn? So obviously I just gave a range because I didn't want to. He was just curious.
Interesting question.
Yeah, it's just, and I'm curious as to why you asking me.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, that's actually pretty good. That's good wage." I was like, "Yeah," and I gave him a pretty false number just to be like what the average wage is for someone skilled in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And he just went on about his journey where he was a salesperson.
Yeah.
Earning a lot, doing a lot, and has had a downfall.
Yeah.
And his downfall was created from, again, finances.
Yeah.
Loan, credit cards.
Yeah.
And just not understanding what he was like, as in like, this is his words, not mine. I would earn today, but spend what I would earn today and tomorrow and the day after.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, yeah. And so I can totally see how that can, even for someone high earning, could fall in the same trap too.
Oh, absolutely. And thinking about it culturally as well. I don't have any children, for example. I've got a husband and 2 dogs. And so someone could go, man, she's earning bank. They might not realize that also, my family rely on me financially. Yeah. So my grandmother, my auntie, and my mother all rely on me. So actually 50% of anything that I make ends up going to the wider whānau anyway. That's not true in my respect. Well, the husband and the dogs is, but there are so many circumstances of that, probably more in Pacifica, Asian families, when we assume that you can just go home and your money is your money, and it's absolutely not. So yeah, I think that we can't look at one individual's remuneration at face value and go, you're making coin, because actually there's so much more involved in it than just that. Yeah.
And it's so personal too. Like, one person who may be on their own could be supporting another family which is far away from them.
Yes, child support payments and so forth as well,
And then maybe, a lot of people, at least who I've spoken to, who overextended themselves during COVID when it came to mortgages.
Yes.
Because interest rates were
low
crazy
low.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like you mentioned, cost of living crisis.
Yeah.
We had a flip.
Yeah.
And my first instinct at the start of this year was, whoever I know has a mortgage, I just want to talk to them.
Yeah.
I just want to know whether you've got a plan.
Yeah.
Like, are you aware or anything? Is there anything we can do? Right? And that's also one thing I've been looking at a lot, is that how can we align our company growth not just as its own entity, but also with what our people want to do as a group.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
As in, like, what your people think is like the next best market to go into and so forth, or like them as an individual growing into the next role, or
correct. So growing into the next role, maybe earning more. Maybe, for example, I might come in with conservative goals for sales.
Yeah.
But as a team, a group, are fully confident that they can hit X, Y, Z, and it's something they really want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in a smaller company, I can understand, like ours, it's probably easier to do.
Yeah.
But then in a bigger company like Sharesies, for example, how would you go about doing it? Is it a smart thing to do? Could it create issues? What exactly would that be?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's so many different things there, but I think one of the things that you could do, like if you're looking at an individual and you're going, okay, well, where to from here, like Sharesies might feel big, but there's only so many rungs in that ladder that you can get to, and sometimes you could go, you know, someone that's reporting to me is like, oh, Anna's been here forever and she's not leaving anytime soon, where's next for me, what's next for me? And some of that's like actually sitting down with that individual and going, well, let's just do a bit of career pathway mapping for you, or like actually looking at what we can do to broaden your skills or your areas of interest, or hey, you work in HR, but I know that you've talked about you're really interested in understanding the testing world and so forth. So let's set you up with the testers here. So maybe it's an afternoon, a fortnight, you're getting to kind of grow yourself in that area too, or so forth, or you're wanting to understand finance a little bit more, or things like that. So there are those opportunities. But yeah, we've always had a real focus on hearing what our team want as well. So every fortnight we do a bit of a check-in pulse survey. Anything that you want the EOs, we've got 3 CEOs, so we call them the EOs, or the 3 EOs. Anything you want the EOs to answer, or anything you want to escalate to leadership, this is all anonymous as well, so people can ask anything and they don't have to feel awkward about it. We say, got any financial questions that you want to ask us about, especially topical stuff, either personal stuff or the market. You know, we get people going, what should I do with my like my mortgage interest rates and things? So we get some stuff nuanced as much as that. And again, they're like, we're not financial advisors, it's actually better to do, this is kind of what I'm doing. But also there's an opportunity just for anything else that people want to share. So people will go there, well, this will be a really interesting area for us to delve into, or love to see us move into this market. Have you thought of this? Also, people can just have a chat to people. Our 3 EOs, you probably wouldn't even realise are CEOs. They'll wear shorts and cap type of thing around. But, you know, you could just rock up to one of them and have a good old conversation about something that you've seen, heard of. We've got channels on Slack and people going, hey, this would be cool, or have you seen this, or have you thought of that? Yeah, I think get everything that you can out and then narrow down and go. Yeah, it can get quite hard sometimes when you've got a team of excited people that go, we should do this or we should do that. So part of it is like for an individual, I think it's really great if you've got people in your team to actually sit down and kind of do a bit of pathway mapping with their leader in HR. But then if it's coming to like that wider business side of things, I think it's great if people are actually pitching in with ideas, because I think that they'll be more engaged and excited about what that next product offering you might be looking into is, and that could actually give them an area that they're like, maybe there's something that I could move into or something that I could learn about a little bit more.
Makes sense. And I mean, it's so cool. So you do the pulse surveys every 2 weeks, and is that done online?
Yep, so we use Culture Amp, which is a tool that, you know, there's a whole lot of things with Culture Amp, but we do our engagement survey through it, but we also do that. It gives us the functionality to send out surveys when we want. We've done benefit surveys through it before as well. And then it gives you data back, but we can also respond anonymously to that person. So it goes to them and we don't know who it is. So if there's some individual things, it's just easier to answer. What they do then is my team will pull it together and then send it to the EOs, and every fortnightly team meeting they'll address the questions that have come through. So that means that people hear what other people are putting through, but also get the opportunity to get that answer too from one of the leaders or someone else in the business that's better posed to answer that question. Data's really key for us as well.
I was just
Data is
thinking.
really, really helpful because you could have 20 people only. Sometimes we only get 20% response rate, which is fine. Absolutely fine. That's actually probably the general with those pulse ones
Yep.
but when we do our big engagement survey, we get fantastic response rates. So we might only get 20% of the organisation going, we want Whittaker's chocolate, for example, and we keep hearing that, but actually 80% of the company don't care about that, but you keep hearing that. So data is really helpful because that will tell us that actually it's only 20%. The other 80% are telling you that you want that. And so it's like, well, we can work with the 20% to see what we could do. But actually the 80% are telling us this. That's what Clearhead's really helpful for us as well. So we get lots of great data from the culture. And Clearhead also give us really good data from some of the reports that they do, so that they'll come to us and say to us, hey, look, Anna, Sharesies is flourishing at the moment, so that means this. But here are a couple of things that you could do based on the results that we've had that could really help somebody's te taha tinana, someone's physical well-being, or te taha hinengaro, someone's mental health and well-being. And then they'll give us a few initiatives with some data, some research to back up that of why it could be good. So data is key.
And that made me think about something pretty interesting. It's going to sound really weird when I ask this question. Data, of course, I'll talk about that question later. But this question, it's just been sticking in my mind since you brought up, having that conversation with someone that wants to grow into another position and feels like they're deserving of a better role, but that role is filled. Or maybe there's no space for a role higher than what they already have.
Yeah.
I've only in my life had this difficult conversation once, and I've just said, maybe we're not the right company for you.
Yeah.
Because from my perspective, and I believe in this always, just do whatever's right for the other person.
Yeah.
And karma is good, it will do good to you.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a genuine reason. That's just what I'm doing in my head.
Yeah.
And it was just a conversation. I said this. I said, look, you've got so much potential. You can do so much. We just can't give you what you're looking for. And at that point, we were very flexible around that person finding their new role. We literally worked with them.
Yeah.
In order for them to do it and move on in a very nice transition there, place. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm a big fan.
Yeah?
Yeah, look, I think, we've got development budgets for our team here, and we also have a separate budget for people that are people leaders to kind of grow them in that space as well. And yes, of course, we want people to use their development budget on developing them on their current role, but also their future role. But also we want to grow great Sharesies people now, and we want to be able to send off amazing Sharesies people out into the world as well. And so absolutely big fan on supporting people, whether it's growing them internally or whether it's growing and supporting them into that next stage in their career, wherever that may be. So here we don't have a set specific schedule on when we will promote someone, if that's the right age and stage for them to do that, if they've worked through the framework that's in place. The only time it then gets tricky is obviously when it's moving them into a management role, because again, there kind of has to be. So if you come in as a junior developer, do everything and you get to that right spot, then we're not going to go, sorry, it's December and we don't do promotions till March. If you're ready to do that, then we know that our people are going to really appreciate being actually moved into that new position. And we know that that's really helpful retention as well as engagement, of course. So there's a few things there. Promote when you can, where you can, especially when it's not going to hurt anything or anyone or break the system. And here it's only when it becomes moving into a tech lead role or a leader or a people leader role that's when that kind of, you hit that ceiling, like I was saying before, with one of my managers might go, get out the way, it's my turn, please. So that's when it could end up being having those really open conversations. We have a performance cycle as well, so 3 times a year we have formal performance conversations with our people where we talk about a whole range of things around how do you feel you've been delivering towards our priorities, how do you think that you've been working this year, what are you proud of, but also development and things like that as well, and where do you want to be. So none of that should ever be a surprise to anybody. We also have a really strong one-on-one kind of culture here too, so that people are meeting intentionally, at least kind of every fortnight. So we're forever kind of having those conversations. Where do you want to be at? What do you want to do? Even if it is, what kind of skills are you looking at growing and developing as well, to help you kind of get to where you may want to be. There are people out there that are like, I'm happy. I don't actually want to do any. Like, I really, really love my job, and at the stage that I'm in my life, I'm doing this or that or whatever. I really, I just want to do this. It's like, great, you keep doing that. But I'm sure that there are little things in your job that you'd love to be better at. So what are those things then that we could do or enhance? Or are there things that you could do to help other people grow themselves in this space? So, yeah.
Having said that, what we found, what I've seen as well, is it's kind of hard having that conversation with someone that doesn't talk a lot or likes to elaborate.
Yeah.
Like in particular, those people, what we found at least is people who just are really happy with where they are, love the job they're doing, happy with their pay as well and everything. So like to them, it says, oh, I'm good. No, it's all good. We're all good.
Yeah.
Any question? Yep, no, it's all good. So what else could you do? I don't know. You can tell me.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been involved in this, but I've just heard of this. How would you get them to talk, I guess? Like, how would you get them to open up?
Yeah. Look, and there are plenty of people out there that are like that who, and I don't think it's because they've got those self-awareness or that they're closed off to growth. I think it's just that they're happy in the space that they're in. One of the things that I did recently with the team, probably in the last 6 months, was a bit of a skills session where we went through. We use Miro here. I just pulled this board together, and it was more like hey, what are the skills that I'm really good at? What are the skills that I'd like to kind of grow a little,
right?
And so forth. So we had a few different quadrants, and then we all just put our things in there, sticky notes, and then we went through them, and then I pulled it all together. I mean, what am I really good at? What would I like to grow myself at? And then the rest of the team went, okay, Carolee's really good at this, or Anna's great at that, or Anna said that she'd like to learn more about that, and I'm really good at this. So I've been trying to really encourage my team, for example, to do a bit of that kind of peer coaching, development, growth. So it might be less about you need to do this and more about getting them to kind of work through as a team, for example. That's just one practical example of what can be done, but something that I feel has been really helpful for me as well, because I know that there's always things that I need to learn and grow. And then what can I do and who can I work with in my team to be able to kind of grow myself in that space as well. Yeah.
I like how you mentioned the pair exercise, because it's like you see someone else doing that, you get a bit of inspiration as well.
Yeah.
Plus, it also helps you, think outside the box too, I believe.
Definitely. And also identify skills that you hadn't even thought about, but you see it and then you go, that would be amazing. I would really love to know. And some of it's real technical and kind of boring. Like for me, I really want to know how to use Sheets. Google Sheets better, for example. So then I'm
life-changing.
I know I can, it really can be. And then some of them is like, for me, I want to become a better storyteller. And I've got some people on my team who are fantastic at telling stories. So I'm like, great, well, I know I can go to Elaine and get some coaching from her on how I can become a better storyteller. And so some of it's been more of that kind of the people skills, and some of that's more kind of like the hard techie skills. Yeah.
One other thing I've just noticed, maybe a wrong observation.
Yeah.
That's also, building a good culture.
Yeah.
And I feel like that supports retention too, because everyone's just working with each other. Like you're not just leaving the company, the people in the company also make the company too.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And, I think that there are a lot of people, especially younger people, when they start becoming leaders and so forth. I mean, imposter syndrome is huge for anyone, I think, but you start doubting yourself, or going, I can't do this, or I can't do that. That's what you've got your team for. You don't have to know everything, and you shouldn't know everything, because you've got fantastic people that you're surrounded by that are complementing the skills that you bring. You don't want a cookie cutter team. You don't want a team that looks just like you. You want a team that's going to complement each other really well. Yeah.
When you say complement each other really well, I think I still make mistakes when it comes to building my team.
Yeah.
From your experience, when you are looking to build a team that, again, is an extension of you, or maybe is maybe wrong word, sorry, or, is a team, as in like you egg off each other. It's not like one person's the leader and they follow, but it's just like a nice team that's just helping each other towards a goal. How would you approach that? How would you build that? What parameters would you have when you're trying to build that? Like, what non-negotiables would you have in maybe job interviews or all of that?
Yeah, I think it's really big on setting the scene to start with. So I'm always intentional about being in the recruitment process when it comes to people experience, so that I can kind of get to meet the people. If they're reporting to me, of course, I'm going to be a big part of that process, and that's when I like to set the scene like right from the beginning. This is how we work, this is how we work with each other, and so forth. And I think that's really key, because we're not just interviewing them, they're interviewing us. It's huge.
Yeah.
So, there's been interviews that at the end of it, I've hung up, emailed and said thanks but no thanks, because they didn't interview that well, even though technically I was the one that was interviewing. So I think it's really important that, like, if you looked at my team, we're a really good mixed bunch. And we all bring different experiences with us, but you still want people that are going to want to be there for the same reason, which is, at the end of the day, we're trying to help financially empower everyone, and doing that through, for my team, providing great experiences at work for our people. And a big part of that is the how we work. So we've had changes in our team. People have come, people have gone, and so forth. So sometimes we'll just spend time together as a whole day. We work through our kawa. That's one of those big things that we'll kind of go, what are our ways that we want to work together? How are we when we spend our time together? And we set that intentionally as a team, and we make that. So I'm not that kind of person, oh my God, it'd be so easy for me to go, this is how we're going to do it, right?
Yeah.
Great, done. And that would be half a day of a workshop out the window, like, so nice. But again, it goes back to, that's not going to work for everyone else. It might work for me.
Yeah.
It's not going to work for the rest of the team. And so I think it's so important that, again, it's designing with, for. And so for me, it's designing how we work as a team, with the team, for the team. But of course, there are going to be some non-negotiables, and I think I talked about them earlier around my expectations on how we work, flexi, hybrid, but we still need to kind of be here and available type of thing. Yeah.
It's, I mean, when you mentioned that you could just wish you could just tell them all what to do, and then that's the end of it.
Oh, like how easy would that would be? Yeah.
I mean, I've had that thought sometimes too. I think someone's like also heard me say, and then he's like, "No, we have to do this as a team." And I'm just, yes, we do have to do this as a team. It's a team. Again, like it's you're serving each other, is what I believe.
Yeah, and there are going to be times so that sometimes you're just going to have to pull that old card out your pocket if you can't come to a consensus, or if it's absolutely going in the wrong direction, or I'm always going back to, what are Sharesies' priorities? What are we trying to deliver? What are we trying to do? If I feel like it's going off course, then I'll either gently try and like steer it back, or go, this is what we need to do, or I'm going to make a call here. And I think sometimes people like it when people will make a call too. I know for me, sometimes when my boss goes, this is how it's going to be, I'm like, great, thanks. So there's a time for that storming, forming, norming type of thing, and then there's that time for, just give me the direction and we'll get that done.
How would you yourself identify that, like the difference between the two, when you'd want someone to take a decision or you'd want to be a part of it?
Yeah, I'm big on just saying it how it is.
Nice.
I'm someone that just likes straight talking, but I always go, but remember, I'm still human, so give me feedback. Tell me what I didn't do great. Tell me what I did do great. I'm kind of probably going to be a bit awkward on that, just because we're human. I do like to hear what I can work on, but just remember that I'm human. So that's the same thing. I will go out and I'll be direct, and I'm like, I just need you to tell me, do you want this or do you want that? Or sometimes I'm like, can we sit down and nut this out? And I think that it's just so important. Go in with what you want or what you need, and then try and come out with a bit of that. And if you don't get what you need, sometimes you just got to go back and go, I need this. Yeah.
Having said that, open communication, of course, absolutely, you'd want appraisals, retention. In my mind, they go hand in hand together. It's interesting because I mean, I've seen a market myself where someone would be earning 80K at the moment as an engineer, call it a .NET engineer, senior one.
Yeah.
And it was maybe a month later, well, they find out that they're worth 160 in the market.
Yeah.
Literally nearly double. That's the kind of market we went through in 2020, right?
Yeah. It was a nightmare trying to keep up with remuneration back then in tech, because it was just going, what?
And it brings me to one thing. The one thing that actually gets my blood pressure super high and sleepless nights, and I think a lot of, probably even you as well, is when it's, we have appraisal time. When it's time to give an appraisal.
Yeah.
Because you want to be fair, but at the same time you don't want to be, slightly over the top. Mm-hmm. And then, again, it's like, how do you do it? And you're just scared that, okay, you've figured out a number based on their skills, based on what your research shows as market rate, but is it really that?
Yeah.
What would be your approach? And what is your approach for appraisals?
Yeah, so I touched on the fact that we've got our performance cycles. So we've got those formal, intentional times when we talk about how somebody's tracking and so forth, and their performance. And then we do have that kind of one time a year that we go through and do the remuneration review, is what we call it here. We've got a system in place. We have changed the system a couple of times because we are really conscious that what worked when we were at 50 people is quite different to 100 people, which is quite different to 200 people. So we have to keep kind of iterating on it. We work with our leaders to make sure that what we're putting out there is going to work for them. Again, it's that designing with for.
Yes.
And so we've just been doing that with our remuneration review and our remuneration framework. The last kind of 6 months is going through that. So actually our people leaders and our ERT have helped us design how that would work as well. So it's not just HR going, this number, that number will equate to this type of thing. We've always been really big and intentional about being honest and open about our financial situation as well. Last year was hard. Everybody was expecting, I think we should have inflation, increases in line with inflation and so forth. Again, increases that in line with inflation also impacts inflation negatively. So it's this kind of vicious cycle as well. Yeah. But also you've got to be able to afford that. And these are huge increases that people kind of wanted and expected as well. That retention piece is key. People just need to pay the bills and feed their families and so forth. So you need to be open and honest about that. I think otherwise you're going to have a lot of disappointed people or not, depending on the situation, and having a really open and transparent framework so that anyone and everyone can see it, not just the people leaders that are taking their people through it, but the employees that have been taken through that as well, because all of us are employees regardless of what our role is. So but if you're not a people leader, sometimes it can feel a little bit, you're more removed from that system and process. So it's just really helpful for people to know what they're going to be reviewed on, what the system's going to look like, so that they can be set up for success once it comes time for that REM review. Difficult conversations are always a big thing, so we always make sure that it's aligned to some of these periods throughout the year, like REM review, that we have a people leader session on this, or how to take somebody through the process, or how to have a difficult conversation and so forth. Right. Just so that it's kind of fresh. Not that we expect that REM conversations are going to be, but it's so personal. Yes. That's why I kind of went, when you talked about that person on the plane, asking about pay, because my dad was you don't ever ask anyone about how much they're paid. Yes. I'm kind of a little different about that now, because I feel like, especially with the gender pay gap and so forth, I need my female friends to know what market pay is, so that they know if they're getting paid well and so forth. And I think I'm in a position of power in that respect, that I know that information because of my job, and so I will talk about REM in that respect with people, because I think it's really helpful for them to know. It's actually good. It was great talking to you. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for being so open about everything as well. Cool. I enjoyed my chat, and I enjoyed getting to know you as well in just this hour. I can't say thank you enough. Yeah, me too. Thank you so much. It's been great chatting and making me think a little too. Awesome. I'm glad. I'm glad. Something came. That's awesome. If you got any value from this as well, I'm really happy about that. No, that's cool. Awesome.